It's my honor today, and it really is an honor and a privilege to introduce to you Hope Cross. Uh, Hope joined Eckert Connect's Project Bridge, our team there in April of 2014. And her journey started as a career service coordinator and transitioned into community engagement specialist. And then she transitioned into a community engagement supervisor, where she has the blessing to serve both Central and South Florida in our Project Bridge regions. Prior to joining the team, Hope served in the field of social work, education, juvenile justice, and journalism. And all of these diverse experiences gave her the tools she needed to truly impact our clients, building stronger mentoring services, expanding community resources and partnerships, identifying employment opportunities to promote self-sufficiency for our clients, creating and fulfilling community service opportunities, and to engage the community overall so that we have a village that our youth and families can be a part of. So Hope, thank you so much for joining us today. I so appreciate it. And I know that I'm going to throw you a curveball right away because I've asked just a couple of folks that have worked with you in the past. Just before I start throwing some questions at you, I wanted a few of your clients just to talk about the impact you've had on their life. And I see Carlos Levis sitting right next to you in our Brady Bunch view here. But Carlos, would you mind taking just a couple minutes and unmute your camera and just share the impact Hope's had on your life?
Well, for me, I've known Hope for going on 6 years now. Nah, it's like 4 years. I've known her for a long time now, and she's very helpful, very uh, you know, try to focus on what my needs are. She's impacted my life in so many ways, helped me out when I really needed it. I remember a time when I went to, a courthouse. I was going through some legal problems, and she was there, and she asked some of her uh, helpful friends to come along and get the judge to really side with me. And if she wouldn't have done that, I would have never got my GED. I was right in the middle of getting ready to pass my last test, and with that little testimony that they all kind of threw together, helped me out with getting my GED. And after that, I didn't have any problems. Literally, like, no problems right after that. I got my GED, found a new job, was just really focusing on bettering myself. And Hope Cross, she really impacted my life. Like, you could definitely say that.
So she
Definitely
was
put
in
me
your
on the path that I am on now.
so she was in your corner,
Yeah.
and when you needed somebody to be your advocate, she stepped up.
Exactly.
I don't think I just read her job description. I don't think it was in there that she was supposed to be an advocate too.
She was always, had stuff going on, but anytime I really needed to talk to her, she's there to answer the phone and help me out, give me some advice, or throw some ideas my way. Really, I remember I lost my job a couple months back, and I hadn't talked to her in a couple months, but it's like I said, just hit her up anytime, and she was there, ready to help me out with some information. Or back when I was in Project Bridge, like before I graduated, uh, she considered me to be one of the best. I don't know, what do you call it, clients that we take care of.
Sure.
But one of the best kids there. I'm just there helping out others, and she saw that and really helped me see my own potential.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I appreciate about you, Carlos, so much is that you've stayed connected. So oftentimes our program graduates, when they get out of the program, when they graduate, especially like you, when they do a good job and change their life, they move on down the road. But Man, I appreciate you staying connected,
Hey, it's not a problem, man.
and I so appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, Carlos. And I know Hope appreciates that. Hope, tell me about Carlos. What made you be his advocate?
Well, I will tell you what, Carlos is one of the most humble young people I have ever met. And I remember when he came to Project Bridge, before he ever came to Project Bridge, we received his referral. And just because of his home and housing situation, we couldn't find him. So I don't know if you remember that, Carlos, but
Yeah.
we traveled to every known address that Carlos ever had and left business cards. And on the day that he was scheduled to kind of go off of our referral list, we got a call from young Carlos, who I think was about 15 at the time, saying that one of those business cards landed in his lap and he really wanted services, he really wanted help, and it was the very last day. Literally, we had to do the intake that day or it would have expired. So he dropped whatever he was doing, we dropped what we were doing, and the intake was completed. And ever since that, Carlos was on the ground running with every service that we had to offer. And in that, Carlos is one of those, what I would call a quiet leader, someone who is quiet but powerfully impactful. When he speaks, he has something to say, and every action that he takes is a positive action. And when I told what he was talking about being one of the most amazing clients was his leadership skills. Oftentimes, if a youth was having a down day, he would speak into their life. Again, this quiet young man would speak up and say something. If he saw a need, he was there to take care of it. It was one of those things that you could see his humility um, and his meekness from a mile away, but there's a lot of power in that quiet and mild spirit that he has.
Mm. Yeah, it's not always about the volume, is it?
No.
That's awesome. Well, was Catherine able to join us? We have some people that called in, and it doesn't have a name, so that's why I'm shouting out Catherine's name. I don't see anybody responding. Well, I just I don't want this to turn into Hope Cross. This is your life, but does anybody else want to mention anything about Hope before I put her under the Roy Jones microscope here?
Actually, could I say something real quick?
That would be wonderful, please.
I've known Hope probably 15 years, and she actually encouraged me to be a mentor. And I always like to help behind the scenes and not do a whole lot of things, because I just was that way. But because of Hope's sincerity and her outright concern and care for these kids and everything involved with Eckerd, she convinced me to be able to make that step and to reach out to the kids and to be a mentor to the kids. And it has completely changed everything in my life, because not only do the lessons help the kids, it also helps the mentors. And, I have my own kids, and my own kids want to be mentors when they're old enough. And I just, you just don't find people like that very often. And Hope will kill me later, I'm sure. But she just has that special quality about her that she just 100%, she wants to see people succeed. And she has definitely made an impact in my life and my friends that have become mentors, and seeing the changes in these kids, because these kids are just flat out miracles. I mean, what you guys do there is just miraculous. And I just wanted to give a shout out and tell you that, you impact more than just the kids that you help. You also impact the people that are donating and spending time, and whatever aspect that people are around you guys and Hope. Everybody's impacted, and I just want to say that it is a great and it's a fabulous program, and I appreciate everybody so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Pretty special. Anybody else I can sign this microphone at would like to share a word or two?
Roy, this is Tommy Henderson, and I'm the regional manager down at Project Bridge in the South Circuits, South Region, and I manage circuits 15, 17, and 16 currently. And I could tell you, I've also managed 20 and 11, but Hope, I could tell you, she's just been a godsend. She had originally started with Project Bridge in the Central Region, and due to her new role with being a community engagement specialist supervisor, she's done so much as far as coordinating the mentoring services, gathering grants for us, and just putting on different mentoring events on a weekly basis, and just pretty much keeping us on our toes in the South, and make sure we're doing the best that we can do. Is providing optimal and valuable resources for our youth down in the South region. So I couldn't say enough about Hope. She's God sent. I love her, and I enjoy working with her.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Tommy. Man, I appreciate that. I know Hope does. And I'm going to quit embarrassing her now. And now I'm going to make her mad. I'm going to ask her some tough questions. What's everybody think about that? Think I can stump Hope? Here's the first one, Hope. In just watching you work from a distance, talk to me about your process. I mean, how do you win a young person's trust? What's that first conversation sound like? Help me with that.
Well, when I was a kid, my mother always said that she thought I was going to get kidnapped because I would talk to everybody. And I did not get kidnapped, but I think that it just comes with the territory, is just talking to people. And so every time I meet anyone, but especially a young person, a youth that's coming into our program, one of the first things that I ask them is just tell me about yourself. And sometimes that takes a little more prompting, but after a while, I might sit there an hour trying to get that young person's story, and trying to talk to them and have a conversation and find out who they are. And in that conversation, I'm always looking for a place to connect. And I think that when we are able to do that and really make that connection, that's where you actually start the relationship. Because in that conversation, they're at some point going to tell you who they are, what they need the most. They might even share some of their fears and some of their barriers. And that's where we kind of launch off, is just finding out who they are, more than what they did, more than their past. Who are they right now? What do they want to do? And going from there. And then the next thing is an immediate action. So if a young person says they want a job, there is an immediate action taken. If a young person says they want a mentor, the next action taken is a phone call to a mentor. If they say they want to be a vet, if they say they want to be a doctor, if they say they want to create a whole program, the next step is help them do that. And
I got to stop you right there. I mean, so again, I get the piece about being a good listener and pulling it out of them, but you're saying it's just as important that when they tell you something, take immediate action.
Absolutely. Because a lot of people can talk, a lot of people can listen, but the youth and the clients that we serve, they want to see that we're going to do something about it.
About building trust. You're building trust by that.
Absolutely.
I got, you mentioned a few, but I mean, are some of those things that you have to act on immediately pretty tough? Talk to me about the kind of requests that the kids have had that you've had to help with. Of course, Carlos shared one here. I'm at the courthouse. Come help me.
Well, and Carlos has a story of his own. I think he'd make a great lunch and learn. Sorry, Carlos, I'm putting you out there. When Carlos came to us, he was actually, and I've told him this a lot, he was very quiet. He didn't really express his needs. He didn't express his barriers. So there was a lot of searching to find out what he needed. But when that need was expressed, it really did have to be an immediate action. I know the day that we went to court, he didn't even really share what the court was about until we got there. And when I got there, it really was a difference between him being violated and going back to a juvenile program or remaining free and being able to accomplish his goals. And when that story unfolded in the courtroom, it really was something that, you know, the judge and the lawyers weren't aware of all the progress he was making because he was quiet and didn't brag on himself. So when Project Bridge was able to do that, the judge literally even threw out all the fees and said, the next time I see you, you will have a GED. And so the next time we went to court, the only reason we went was to report that he had a GED, that he had graduated.
I love it. I love that. That's exciting. That is exciting. What's interesting, I hadn't thought about that before. Now, for the record, and somebody else here talked about Hope's, I don't know what mystical ways of reeling us in, but the last time she was in my office, I handed her my mentoring application. So yeah, I'm interviewing her so I can become a better mentor here. But Hope, I'm just thinking about, you know, how you win trust with young people, and this whole thing of acting fast is important, isn't it?
Yes, acting fast, I think, is important, but acting intentionally, and then being consistent with that act. So again, anybody can speak and anyone can listen, and anyone can even act one time, but then following that up and being that consistent person. And again, I don't think that winning trust is, there's no secret to it. I think it's just being genuine, being real, making that connection, and having no, I don't know. I'm the kind of person, when someone speaks with me, I look for the real in them. And so I want to give the real back. And I think that anybody appreciates that, and that's where the connection is going to be built.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's in preparing to talk to you today, I talked to 3 or 4 of your clients, including Carlos, and every one of them said to me, uh, Hope called me. You know, I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to beg to be helped. You know, she was on the phone with me every week, and talk to me a little more about that consistency. How do you make that happen? I guess pretty good at using an Outlook schedule, I guess.
I love calendars, but I will say that if you're in the field of client service, knowing who your clients are, and making sure that even if it's not time to call them, that if you have that moment, that you do make a call, shoot a text, send some kind of information their way that might be important. And I actually learned that when I was in social work. I don't know if I have time to share a short story, but you can.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in social work, serving adult clients, we had a client. I specifically had a client, and if they didn't keep services, they were, you know, your numbers were affected, your job was affected, and I know it's not about the job and it's not about the numbers, but sometimes it still hurts, right? And so the clients could stay on our radar for 90 days. And so literally the client wouldn't answer the door, they wouldn't answer the phone, but I was trained and I was taught, you know, keep going to their door, keep knocking, put a note on their door, give them a call. You know, you've spoken to them. What did they like? What did they talk about? Try to connect that way. And I was much younger and very naive, and I didn't know all these things, but I listened. And so every single 2 or 3 times a day, or a week, not a day, but a week, I'd go to the home. I would leave notes on the door. I would call, and I was just consistent. And then on day 90, I could not make this up if I tried. On day 90, which was the last day they had to contact, I got a call, and it was the client on the other end of the line. And the client said, "Hey, how are you? When are you coming to see me again?" And at first I thought, well, I've been there a lot. so in my mind, I just made a decision, they're calling me for a reason. So I said, how's tomorrow? And so I went
Right.
back the next day, and on their calendar, they had a big desk calendar hanging on the wall. And the only thing on that calendar was me, my visit. And the client told me that day, I have gotten all of your notes. I have received all of your messages. I was going through a lot. I just couldn't handle anything else. But I really, I knew you were there when I needed you. And so here we are. And that client never missed another session. That calendar stayed on the wall. And the only meetings that she would put on that calendar was when I was coming. And she graduated successfully. And that taught me, be consistent. When people are ready, even if they don't answer and they don't open the door, they're going to know that you were there, and they're going to know by your reaction if you cared. So that client taught me that, and that's what I've been able to carry into what we do here at Eckerd.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that piece of it. I mean, it's almost a little bit of salesmanship, so to speak, in that there's a lot of rejection at times, isn't there?
Oh, there's a lot of rejection, but it's not about us. If we make it about us, that's where the feelings can get hurt. If we keep it about the client, then there's going to be an understanding it's about them. And that's really what matters. And then that rejection really doesn't feel like rejection.
That's I mean, that is a perspective that you've had to learn the hard way, it sounds like.
There have been some hard turns, but they've all been beneficial. They've all been part of the building and the growing process.
Very interesting. Hope, is there anything that jumps top of mind that you can say clients have taught you?
Yeah, they have really taught me really everything that I know when it comes to working with people. First and foremost, that they are people, and that they are human, just like me, just like you, just like everyone here on this line. And one of the stories that comes to mind when I think of a lesson I learned when I first came to Project Bridge is we had a group of clients, and they were pretty rough. They were rough, but I love the tough ones. And we were able to set up a community service project, and this project was supposed to be indoors. It was the middle of the summer. It was hot. Florida's always hot. So when we got there with about 5 or 6 of these young men, the organization said, hey, well, we don't really have any indoor work, but we have all this landscaping supplies. So can you landscape all of our grounds? And, the boys at that time just kind of looked at me, and they started, showing their disgruntled perspectives. And I was just supposed to drop them off at a business meeting. And so I was dressed in a business suit and heels. And I knew in that moment that if I didn't do something, we were going to have a bunch of very frustrated boys, and then potentially a frustrated organization. So I said, okay, show me where the stuff is. I took the most disgruntled boy with me, and I said, hey, can you help me with this wheelbarrow? It's too big for me to push. Can you just push it and I'll do the work? And so we got everybody started. And this young man, I still remember his name. He's like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Because we had mulch, and we had soil, we had shovels, and I know nothing about landscaping, absolutely nothing. So he watched me for about 5 minutes pour soil and mulch and try my best to figure out how to use a shovel. And he laughed a little. And then after about 5 minutes, he just shook his head, and he's like, give me that. And he started doing the work. And then at the end, we're dirty from head to toe. We're sweaty, and he's like, you are crazy. And I said, yeah, a little bit, probably. And he's like, but I don't understand why you did this, miss. You're dressed, you're in heels, you had a meeting to go to. Why did you do this? You didn't have to do this. And so I told him in that moment, I said, when I was younger, my father told me that never ask somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And So in that moment, he, you know, his response was, well, that's why I like you, because you're willing to do the work and you're willing to get dirty. And of course, we finished the day. The whole grounds was landscaped. The kids did a great job, and what could have been bad ended up good. But what it taught me, in any position we're in, whether we are in the field, whether we're in leadership, no matter who we are, we need to be willing to get our hands dirty. We need to be willing to roll up our sleeves. We're never good or too positioned to do the dirty work, to do the hard work. And a lot of times it's necessary. It's going to be necessary to make the impact that we need to make, no matter where we are standing, what perspective we have, whether it be in the field or leadership. It is part of being that servant leader, and that's what's going to make an impact.
Hope, I want to, it's really interesting. You used this term a minute ago that I can't get out of my head, the real. And, and, you know, just explaining the mulch story of you and Heels pushing that wheelbarrow, the real with Hope Cross. And I want to get real with you. You know, one of the things that you shared with me, and I know you don't share very often, is just your whole background of how God brought you to this point of moving you into social work, why you have a passion for young people, especially in these underserved areas. Talk to me about your background. I mean, before Eckerd Connects, from the very beginning, I want to hear the real from Hope Cross.
Well, and so as you guys know, my name is Hope Cross. So a lot of times when people meet me, the first thing they say is, wow, what a name. And some people ask the story. So the story is I was actually not born as Hope Cross. My biological mother, she was a young person, and she had gotten involved in, actually in her childhood, she was a runaway. She was, she had, you know, had to turn to prostitution to kind of make money and to provide support for herself. And she ended up in prison and a heroin addict. So she was in prison, and what they didn't know is this 97-pound young person was pregnant. She knew she was pregnant, but they didn't know. And in that, she had tried to actually perform an abortion on herself. And in that, they found her, and in time, they were able to do an emergency C-section. So with this C-section, I was born. I was just 1 pound, the lightest I've ever been in my life. And the doctor said it's, you know, we were able to save this baby, but there's still no hope for her because she's too underdeveloped. She's blind and she's deaf. Her heart's not developed. She's not going to make it through the night. And they called my biological grandmother, told her this. And of course, my biological grandmother was always a force to be reckoned with. So she got into the vehicle and they made the trip from Tennessee to Texas because she told the doctor I was going to live. And they got to the hospital where I was, entered the room, and the doctor's first words were, "Don't get attached. This baby is not going to live." And she said that as the doctor told her that God spoke to her and said, "This baby will live." And of course, a few months went by. There was still, you know, they managed to keep me alive, but I was hooked up to machines, and I was sent home at about 2.5, 3 months old to die. They sent me home to die. They told her, "There's nothing else we can do. Give her all the love you can, but do not get attached." And my name was not Hope at the time, but because of her faith in what God had spoken to her, she started calling me Hope. And she had actually marked out all the documents where my other name was and wrote in Hope. And they traveled to Florida. They were supposed to go home, but she kind of broke rules that, you know, so they traveled to Florida, and the first place they went was just this random service, this random church service. And in the church service, the preacher recognized, I guess, that they needed prayer, told my grandmother everything that was wrong with me. He couldn't have possibly known that. and they prayed. And so when it was time to return to the doctors, they did their exam, they looked, and they said, this is a miracle. This cannot even be the same child. There is nothing wrong with her. And so I got a clearance from the doctors that I was going to be okay. And then, of course, I was sent home. My biological mother was still in prison. And she was released from prison when I was about 13 or 14 months old. And so they made the trip to court to make the official adoption. My grandparents became my parents, and they officially changed my name to Hope, and their last name was Cross. So that's how I got my name, and that's where the story came from.
Hope Cross. It's interesting. I love hearing you talk about your grandmother and just what a woman of resolve she was. And do you think she planted that seed to serve others as you were growing up?
I'm not sure. She was never a strong believer, I think, until that moment. She actually told me she never really had a true faith until God spoke to her, and she knew it was the voice of God. And she just refused to believe anything else. And so I think that, I heard this story growing up, but I didn't get it. I didn't really understand it until I was about 21 years old.
And what happened then? Talk to me about that process where you decided, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do.
At 21 is actually why or when our church group went out to minister to a DJJ facility. And what is the saying about best laid plans? We all have plans. My plans were always to
So I'm just sitting here thinking about that. I mean, here's this young lady who was born in a prison, and now she's going back to minister in prison.
Yes. And so before that moment, my plans were always to pursue the field of journalism. I always wanted to be an investigative reporter for the New York Times and be the voice for the people. And, so I moved to this tiny little town called Arcadia, Florida. And they did not need a reporter because they'd had the same line for probably a century. And so I was a little lost at what to do because that's what I'd always wanted to do and thought I was called to do. But that day we went out to the DJJ facility. As we were walking through those the gates, the level 6, level 8 gates, and they closed behind me and we walked up the trail, something started kind of happening inside. I felt something that I'd never felt before. And then when we got inside, there were 80 girls on the inside of this facility. And as I watched them, they were all wearing jumpsuits. They were all in there for level 6, level 8 crimes. And like I just started to like tear up. And I'm not really a crier, but I started to just feel such a compassion and a drawing to them. And I still didn't realize in that moment what that was. And then we worked with them that day for a few hours. We ministered. And the director, who I didn't know she was the director, but she came up to me and said, "Do you need a job?" And I said, "Well, I do, but, I'm a reporter. I do journalism." And she said, "It looks like you do kids." And I said, "No, I don't really do kids. I don't really do kids at all." And she's like, "Well, it looks like you do." She said, "Well, just, you're a believer, right?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, put in the application and let's just see what happens. Because if it's God's will, you'll get the job." Now, I didn't know she was the director. So I said, "Fine, I can do that." So I remember putting in the application on a Tuesday, got the call on a Wednesday, interviewed on a Thursday, hired on a Friday, started on Saturday, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Other than the heart God had prepared you for up to that point.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you can learn the head stuff. It's the heart stuff that I'm always amazed when I meet our caseworkers and program leaders around the country at the heart of our people. It is just overwhelming to me. And to see people every day you know, I think about what everybody's gone through over the last 4 to 6 months, and I mean, seeing our caseworkers, put on their PPE and throw lawn chairs in their trunk so they can go do driveway case meetings with their clients. It's just overwhelming to me just to see the heart of client service and what we do and what you do. When I picked the title for this thing, it really is the heart of client services, Hope, that you represent, that you model for us. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate you and your willingness to share with us today. And I'm seeing a trend, though, here in our Brady Bunch view. Your kitty cat's behind your shoulder, and I see Christina Alexander's got a cat, and so our pets in our home offices have taken over the video screen.
Yeah, they're very curious about everyone on the screen.
That's funny.
I just wanted, sorry. I just wanted to say that my phone's about to die, but Miss Hope, you've been awesome. I'm glad to be part of this conference call. Just to let everybody know that you've been doing great things, and you deserve all this praise, and you deserve much more praise. So, I just gotta go. My phone's dying. So
Carlos, you rock. Thank you, brother.
No problem.
Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Seeing everybody.
All right. Well, Hope, I really just appreciate you. And again, I think what this call did for me is just really bring into focus the heart of all of our people across the whole country. And whether you're in transitional work, working with kids in coming out of Department of Juvenile Justice, or foster care, or workforce, or Job Corps, caring for young people and helping them change the trajectory of their life. It's a calling. And I didn't mean for this to sound like a church service, but I truly believe that there are people on our team that have just such a special passion for caring for those that just need somebody, just like Carlos said. He needed somebody that would be his advocate. You were there for him. And I just wanted to take this time to thank you. I know our team thanks you. I'm looking through the chat comments. I'll copy them and paste them for you before we get off here. But it's just inspiring just to see everybody just saying, thank you, Hope, for modeling this skill set for us, and for really representing the heart of Eckerd Nation. Thank you, Hope, for all you do.
Thank you. And I think that you already said it. There's a ton of men and women, and some of them are here on the screen right now, and they all radiate that. They're all out there, and they're all serving youth and families in our communities, and it really is a calling. And I think that Eckerd, with what we represent, with what Eckerd represents, that second chance. Scripture tells us that what we have done to the least or for the least is like doing it to God. So when we change and impact the lives of a young person, it is those are the least of our communities. They may not really be the least, but those might be who people feel are the least. And they're not the least. They're humans. They have great purpose and great calling. And I think everybody within our program out here serving, whether it be in any of the programs you just mentioned, they have that heart and they have that passion. And Eckerd is a very great organization that is changing lives throughout our world. And it is full of people that are changing lives in their communities.
Thank you again, Hope. Any more questions for Hope? I'm going to let her go today. This was just so much fun for me. And just such a, I hope you were as blessed by this story and these tips as I have been. But anybody else like to share anything with Hope before we get off here today?
Yeah, Roy, this is Curtis.
Hey,
how you doing? So I met Hope probably, I think it was like 6-7 years ago when I first started as program manager with Project Bridge. And at that time, we were at a turning point with the program, and there were some really challenging things going on. And I would get on these treatment team calls, and I would hear a lot of barriers of why things might not happen. And then I got on my first one with Circuit 12, where Hope was working at the time, and Hope would do nothing but present reasons why things will happen. No matter what was going on with this client and the family, she said, well, what about this? Well, we can do this. Well, I know if we make this happen, if we come together. And Hope's optimism and her belief that our clients really can change is unwavering. I had nothing to compare it to because she truly is unique. And Hope actually used to work with Henkel's. And when Henkel's came over to Eckerd, we kind of talked about it, and Hope's like, well, what's that transition gonna look like? What does it mean to be a part of Eckerd? And I remember telling Hope, you have been Eckerd this entire time. You have been Eckerd through and through. And there isn't someone that really embodies Hope more than Hope. It truly is incredible. And we are blessed to have her as part of the team. So thank you, Hope. This is well deserved.
Thank you, Curtis. Anybody else like to share before we wrap things up?
Hi, Roy. This is Maria.
Hi, meeting you.
Thanks.
Hi, Roy. This is Claudia. I just wanted to echo what Curtis shared. I mean, Hope has been, she's just amazing. And if there's one word to describe her, it's really unique. She's one of a kind. She just takes something good and makes it better. She sees a roadblock and she turns it into an opportunity to just make things better and brighter. She's all for the kids, 100% there all the time. And I just couldn't thank Hope enough because she just makes her program, our organization, our services, and our youth better. And so, well deserved, Hope. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Claudia.
Well, everybody, I just again thank you, Hope, and it's just neat just to take a few minutes and talk about our passion, talk about what we do that is changing people's lives, not for a week, not for a month, forever, and helping these young people break the cycle of poverty by offering hope and an opportunity, just like we would for our own kids. So, again, thank you, Hope. I just want to encourage everybody, stay with these Wednesday Lunch and Learns. This has been so empowering for us as an organization. It's been so supportive and supported by our funders and supporters around the country. They like hearing from you. They may not all speak up in these calls, but trust me, they're on these phone calls. The checks are written sometimes within minutes of us concluding these sessions because they get a feel for our heart. And our supporters like what we're doing. They like getting this insider view of how we're meeting needs around the country. I do want to remind you, please, if you're part of a program, I want people to hear about your program, and I'd like to talk to you about your program. So please circle back with me. You can call me on the cell phone, 434-258-4416. Or reach me at rojones@eckerd.org, and I'd like to share your program and help you in identifying more support for your program. So again, thank you, Hope, for being part of this. We will kick off our next series of Wednesday Lunch and Learns November the 11th. So you'll be getting announcements about it. We'll be back in touch. But again, thank you, everybody, for being part of Wednesday Lunch and Learn. Hope, you're one of my heroes. I appreciate you.
Bye. Thank you.